Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Bundesliga Show. We're back now officially. The season has started. We're both very, very excited, me and Mark. Another blockbuster. I say another, a blockbuster week to get started. It feels good to be back. Goals galore. Already some defensive errors going on. The Bundesliga is officially back. So me and Mark are back to review everything that's been going on. So welcome back to the show to all our regulars. And if you're new, welcome along. And please let us know if you enjoy the show. First and foremost, obviously, this show is brought to you by Over the Bar, but of course in partnership with the fantastic Bundesliga boxes, our partner for this season. So Bundesliga boxes are a fantastic company that provide mystery, authentic German football shirts that come, of course, in a box, which have that mystery element of them, basically, and it's fantastic product, which is really well run. So if you don't know about them, go and find them. You can go find them on their website, or they are on Twitter, and they have a very strong presence on Twitter. So go search for them on there and get yourself a fresh shirt. Like this one, Tasmania Berlin, the mighty Berliners, which I'm sporting this evening. So, yeah, fantastic product, and we're very happy to have Bundesliga boxes with us for this long and hopefully exciting season. So, as per usual, we will go into Mark's mystery anagram in a second. So, the first of the season. We're hoping that we get loads of interaction on this again this season, because it was a very popular part of our show last season. So we're sticking with it. So hopefully we get loads of people trying to guess Mark's particularly tricky anagram. So Mark, first of the season, let's get straight into it.
Yeah, where better place to start than obviously Mark's mystery anagram for this season. So obviously it was a popular part of the show last year, so we decided to continue it into this season. So yeah, where better place to start? So yeah, obviously there was no last week's because this is the first one. So let's get kicking off with week one Mark mystery anagram. So as you can see at the bottom of your screen, we got a good one for you this week. We got Scholar Kinds. Scholar Kinds, yeah. So while this is the first one, I'm going to give you guys a little clue, actually, because it's a little bit of a difficult one to start. So the answer to this one is a new signing into the Bundesliga. So for some of you guys that aren't maybe so updated on the transfers and things like that, then look out for some of the new guys, the new signings into the Bundesliga this season. But yes, Scholar Kinds. Yeah, so remember, all of our mystery anagrams on the show are related to only the top tier of the Bundesliga as well. No Zweite Bundesliga, and it's got to be a player, a manager / coach, or a team from the Bundesliga, yeah. So remember, last year we had a lot of brilliant comments, and a lot of people got some of the more tricky ones as well, which I was really, really impressed with, to be honest. I think Rory would agree with me on that one. So yeah, let's see if you guys can continue interacting with us. We've been really, really happy with the increase in interaction in recent shows, actually, as well. So just keep telling us what you think about the anagram and about other things related to the show, because we really want to interact with other Bundesliga fans around the world. That's also part of the reason why we do the show, and we get so much enjoyment out of it. So yeah, Scholar Kinds is our Mark's mystery anagram for week one. So yeah, so let's start with the scores on the doors for week one. So as usual, you can see on the bottom of your screen the week one results from the Bundesliga. So we started on Friday night with an entertaining 1-1 draw between Gladbach and Bayern. Then moving on to Saturday, we had a 0-0 but not so unentertaining draw between Bielefeld and Freiburg. We had a 4-0 away win for Hoffenheim in Augsburg. We had another draw, 1-1 between Union Berlin and Leverkusen. Then a bad start for Greuther Fürth, losing 5-1 at Stuttgart. Another bad start for a promoted side, with Bochum losing 1-0 at Wolfsburg. Then the game of the weekend was 5-2 for Dortmund over Eintracht Frankfurt. Moving on to Sunday, the games just kept coming thick and fast, and a 1-0 win for last season's excellent finishes, Mainz over Leipzig, and the weekend finish with a 3-1 win for Cologne over Hertha Berlin. So yeah, great weekend, Rory. Great weekend to come back. 2 teams scoring 5, a lot of entertaining drama, red cards, just about everything. So let's get stuck in with OTB's featured 4. So for those of you guys that didn't watch us last season, these are the best 4 games from the weekend. So yeah, where better place to start this weekend, Rory, than the 5-2 win for Borussia Dortmund over Eintracht Frankfurt. I mean, what a game this was. This was classic Bundesliga, wasn't it? I mean, there's no better place to start than this game. And I think for me, the key moment, really, the key man was that man, Erling Haaland again, wasn't he, Rory? What a performance this was from the main man.
Yeah, absolutely. Put down a marker in terms of how he is going to perform this season. He obviously wants to be the star man, the top goal scorer. I'm sure he wants to dethrone Lewandowski. Obviously, you saw him get 1 goal the previous evening, so he really did put down a marker. I'm sure that Dortmund fans were drooling over his performance. Obviously, he got 3 in the Pokal in the first round just the other weekend. So he means business, and I expect him to absolutely bamboozle and terrorize defenses for the rest of the season. I really do. So yeah, he was superb. Dortmund going forward, usually are. We've raved about them all of last season as well going forwards, and they look particularly dangerous. And Haaland is obviously central to it. Well, obviously we saw Royce, of course, getting into the mix well. Hazard, Reina, all kind of confidence boosting goals for all of them, really. So it's a perfect start for Dortmund in terms of how they approached the game and how they went forward. I don't think it would be Dortmund or a Dortmund game without some sort of calamitous defensive, I'm not sure if you call it an error or if it's just bad luck, yes, because obviously Frankfurt came back into the game at 1-1 with a very odd own goal from Paslak to go past new goalkeeper Gregor Kobel in net. Not much he could do about it, really. Interception of through ball onto new Frankfurt striker Rory. And he would have been pleased to see the ball go in the back of the net, but it was the Dortmund defender who did it for him. So that was quite peculiar. But then Frankfurt were trying to press at the right times, and that was an example of them doing it well. However, there were examples of them doing it poorly, as Dortmund on a few occasions did slide through the press, and the example came when Haaland managed to get through and he slid in Hazard for the second goal to get them quickly back in front, and then only minutes later Haaland was at it again, beating Ilsanker to a bouncing ball, which is pretty weak defending, I thought, from Ilsanker. That's just you got to put everything into that. So that again was a bit of a soft goal. It could have been 4 before half time as well. Bit of a horror moment from the keeper, got away with it in the end, didn't he? With that kind of punch back out into play. Royce tapped it home, but there was an offside involved. Frankfurt, they did their best, but they looked a bit kind of deer in headlights sort of team on the day. They'll be pleased with the new signing getting a consolation goal. That he looks like a good player, hopefully for them, although he did shin his finish into the net for a late consolation. But yeah, Dortmund as a team have put down a marker as well. Goals galore, and they'll be feeling very confident going into the Super Cup, which I think is on Tuesday. Certainly midweek at some point, obviously against Bayern, so that'll be a very entertaining game as well. But yeah, certainly work for Dortmund to do tightening up at the other end. Obviously, they've not made any major signings in terms of their back four. Obviously, the keeper's a very solid signing, I would think. Again, set pieces, the second goal for Frankfurt is a flicked on set piece at the back post. So a few things to tighten up on defence, but Dortmund have started in fine fashion, and Frankfurt look like they've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I mean, a bit more on that Dortmund defence, because, I mean, if you look at it on paper, I mean, obviously the fullbacks were Paslak, who got the kind of calamitous own goal, really. Obviously a player that I think when we had Josh on a few weeks ago, he said that the Dortmund fans are not particularly overly enthused about him. Obviously, they don't really like Meunier either. So, I mean, they do definitely have problems at fullback. It was also quite interesting to see that Nico Schulz started as well. I mean, he is really not rated by the Dortmund fans at all. Yeah. I seem to remember that Josh actually said the first thing he'd do is, if he were the hierarchy of Dortmund, is get him out of the door. So it was a little bit surprising to see him start. So fullback is definitely a place where they're weak, Dortmund, really, isn't it? Obviously, Guerrero is injured at the moment, so that is a key point as well, because he is a very top level fullback. But I mean, also the fact that Axel Witsel as well started at centre half, which is a little bit surprising as well. I mean, obviously no Hummels today. Akanji started. Obviously, the main centre half partnership will be Hummels and Akanji. But I mean, Axel Witsel, who, as far as I know, has no experience of playing as a centre half, started there alongside Akanji. Yeah, interesting also to see Dahoud get the nod as well, because obviously he didn't play very much last season until the end when they started to see that improvement. Yeah, of course, Edin Terzic was also there in the crowd, which might have been a little bit intimidating for new Dortmund boss Marco Rose. But I mean, yeah, I think overall very good start for Marco Rose, who obviously joined the club in the summer from Gladbach. But on the other hand, I mean, Oliver Glasner, who somewhat surprisingly for me, left Wolfsburg for Frankfurt. I mean, obviously there were a lot of strange, so to speak, managerial changes over the summer. Yeah. But for me, I was a little bit surprised to see Glasner leave the kind of comfort and the Champions League football of Wolfsburg for Frankfurt. But obviously he's going to be a little bit worried there, isn't he? Because it was a poor performance, really, ultimately, for Frankfurt. Obviously, Boré had a few chances to make you think that, he could get a few goals this season. But as you say, Ilsanker was poor. Hinteregger didn't seem to get into his stride at all in this game. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of work to do for Oliver Glasner to arrest the decline that they experienced at the end of last season, really, when they just fell apart, didn't they, really? And this was a continuation of that collapse, basically, as far as I'm concerned. They still have quality in the side. They still have Kostic, Sau, Hasebe, Kamada also played as well. Still quality there, but much work needed based on his performance if they want to be pushing towards that top four again this season. Okay, so on to the second game, which was obviously, there were two games that were big games. It was Dortmund, Frankfurt, and then obviously it was Gladbach, Bayern on the Friday night, which of course was the first game of the 2021-2022 season now, yeah. But I mean, this was a really entertaining game. I actually tipped a 2-2 draw in this one. I thought Gladbach could get something out of it, considering the fact that now Bayern have only won 1 out of the last 5 visits to Gladbach, which there's not many sides that can say they've only lost 1 in 5 of the last home games against Bayern in Germany, that's for sure. But yeah, really good performance. Obviously, they came flying out of the blocks. They got the goal through Plea, who didn't really have the best season last year, but great start, great performance from him tonight. And again, Lars Stindl, who was excellent last season and started off with a great through ball assist, smashed past Neuer. Then obviously, you're just looking at Gladbach and thinking, can they get that second goal and put a bit of distance between them? But Bayern doing what Bayern do, they didn't let them, did they, Rory?
No, they did not. I thought it was a vibrant and exciting performance from Gladbach at Borussia Park. I thought they were dead up for it. For the season curtain raiser. They put on a bit of a show beforehand as well, which I quite liked with all the goals. I thought it was a bit kind of cringy, but also I liked it. They were brilliant. The press worked really well against Bayern. They won a lot of cheap possession high up the pitch. So I thought that was very impressive. Adi Hütter's men were, they were at it early on. And like you said, Stindl was central to that. Obviously, sliding in player who finished, clinically, which is, a good start to his season, as you said. But yeah, Bayern did what Bayern do. They find a way to get back into it, and they did it. as per usual, just before half-time. We'll say just before half-time, a little while before half-time, to make it 1-1 with a very nice finish, actually, on the volley from a corner. What else would you expect from the great man? 1-1 going into the second half. I thought Jan Sommer had a fine game, keeping up his Euro form, as he had a very good tournament. Did well to stop the likes of Lewandowski from a cutback on the hour. And after a bit of a brief spell where Gladbach had to probably gather their second win, so to speak, it was quite a lot of Bayern were controlling the play. It looked like they might go on to win by 2 or 3 goals, but they came again, I thought, and they looked good. The introduction of Thuram, he looked strong, he looked fit. I really hope he presses on to be the player that he could be, because if Gladbach do get a player playing well and being clinical and the strong, pacey nature of Thuram, get those two back onto a pitch together with Stindl in behind, they will threaten every team they play in terms of going forward. So there's certainly a lot to be excited about. As we mentioned during our preview shows, the biggest kind of signing for Gladbach is the fact that they've not lost any of those players. So I thought that was vital, and I thought they did a really good job. One slight moment of controversy. Obviously, we were talking as the game was going on, weren't we, Mark, about this no penalty? I saw the Gladbach Twitter page, cheekily tweeting out, "Is that not a penalty?" Which I was convinced. It doesn't. Interestingly, it doesn't even make it into the written up highlights on the Bundesliga website, which I thought was very strange. It wasn't even mentioned or even covered, because I thought it was a stonewall penalty. Thuram scored the wrong side of Upamecano, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah. And whether it's soft or whatever, it's clumsy, and once you're the wrong side, you can't touch the striker. So I thought that was interesting. I thought it was a penalty. And then Thuram, again, inches away from that cross from Liner late on in the game. I wasn't sure if he just missed it or if it was just a little bit too far away from him. And then the last kick of the game almost falls to Joshua Kimmich. Of all people, thought he was going to pass it home and Bayern do a typical Bayern, but not to be. So, yeah, very entertaining start to the season, 1-1. Good result for Gladbach. Bayern won't be too fast, but, yeah, very entertaining game.
Yeah, I think obviously overall my kind of feelings on this game were that I thought it was a great first game, first of all, for Adi Hütter. Obviously he came with big hopes to Gladbach after playing some of the football that he played with Frankfurt last year. For me, was some of the best to watch. And I thought this was another really entertaining performance, but also with that defensive discipline in there as well. I thought Nico Elvedi picked up again. He's an excellent defender. I think he's going to have a really, really good season this year for Gladbach. I think, the tactics were just perfect. Obviously, I was a little bit surprised that he didn't start Thuram, but he brought him on, obviously, in the second half, just to kind of give that extra pace. And him and Plea worked as well as I've seen them probably in over a year, to be honest with you. I thought, I think you also missed the fact that Thuram missed a really, really good chance ahead of goal as well. I think he was played in by Plea, and he was right in front of goal, and he kind of miskicked it. He just kind of mistimed the kick. Probably should have finished that one at the end of the day, But yeah, it was a game of a lot of chances from both teams. I thought the press was brilliant for Gladbach. They were kind of pressing them in their own half, and that's where Bayern can be weak, They really can. I think Upamecano will be disappointed with his debut a little bit, to be honest with you. I think he didn't really... Obviously, they brought him in for big, big money to sturdy up that kind of underperforming defence last year, And to me, they didn't look any better in defence than they did last season for long parts. And I definitely think, I agree with you, Rory, that was a stonewall penalty. The German commentary on DAZN, where I was watching it on, they were convinced that it was a penalty. And nobody could understand why they didn't go to the VAR as well, which is kind of, I think it's one of them where if that's the Gladbach defender kind of tripping the Bayern attacker, for me, that's given as a penalty, for me. I'm a small club fan, I know how how it feels to be the small club and get done over. So, yeah, it's. I think Rory, you might see it in a different way to me there.
Yeah, well, the conspiracy theories are already going around, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a pen to me.
For me, he's got to look. He's got to look though at the VAR. For me, he's got to look at that, and I'm a little bit surprised. I mean, obviously, in some of the other games, he do check the VAR. I don't quite know why he's not done it. I do like the way in Germany they tried to avoid some of those soft penalties, but for me, this wasn't a soft penalty. It was a stone waller, to be honest with you. He's going through on goal and he gets tripped from behind. Mm-hmm. It's got to be a penalty. But yeah, going forward, Bayern looked like Bayern. They created a lot of chances. Sommer had a stormer of a game. Yep. It was a great curtain raiser for the Bundesliga overall. I think both sides will be relatively happy with the point overall. But probably Gladbach have got more positives to take than Bayern overall, I would say. Okay, so over to game 3 of our featured 4, and it was one of the games featuring one of the promoted sides, and the side that both me and Rory tipped to finish in 18th place. So let's see how they got along. And yeah, they actually got stuffed 5-1 against one of Rory's and my own as well, one of my kind of soft spot teams, Stuttgart, who were brilliant last season. They picked up exactly where they left off last season with a brilliant attacking performance against an admittedly defensively woeful Furth side, let's be honest. I mean, I think me and you, Rory, could have bagged a couple against them on Saturday afternoon with that defense. But to be honest, early on in the game, Furth actually had the first couple of chances. They had a couple of shots over. But then once, obviously, Stuttgart got the opening goal, which was a beautiful finish from Wataru Endo, one of their excellent midfielders from last season. After that, it was just cruise control, and Furth capitulated, basically, didn't they, Rory?
They did, I think much towards what we had said about this Furth team that we know anyway is that they certainly like to be involved in exciting games. They do seem to concede a fair few, but what the difference was obviously last year is that they could outscore teams, generally speaking. So that obviously will be different this season. So their defence will be tested severely, and they failed their first test on the weekend. Like you said, they started fairly brightly. They did have a few shots blazed over by Hargota. But yeah, once Endo went through and scored, it was all Stuttgart. It was all Matarazzo Pellegrino's team's way. Some nice goals actually that were well worked. Kempf as well, 2 goals for him from set pieces. Like Furth will be certainly wanting to, mop up that. A centre back really shouldn't be scoring 2 goals in a game, should he? Especially from 2 different forms of set piece. So one was a short corner, one was a normal corner. In between an Al Gahoudi goal, who might get a bit more football this season, obviously, given the fact there's no Nico Gonzalez, and Sasa Kalajdzic might just be eased into the season a little bit. So it's important that he got a goal for them. And of course, the brilliant Bjorn Sousa, he just continues to do what he does best. Some lovely crosses, getting onto the end of things where he doesn't even have the right to put in a good cross, and he does. I think he'll obviously be a key man for how Stuttgart's season goes. Hopefully he won't, fall foul of any injury anytime soon. But Stuttgart were brilliant. They got forward well. Obviously, they were helped by some poor defence by Furth. So they'll learn a lot from that, I think, in the first game. Probably quite lucky that they're only play Stuttgart. Stuttgart are a fine side. But if Furth had maybe come up against a top 6 team in the mood to score goals, it could have got a lot more ugly than 5. But good for them that they kept going until the end and managed to get a consolation goal, just to break that duck at least, as Luling was able to round new Stuttgart keeper Müller to make it 5-1. So at least there was something to take out of it for their fans. And I'm sure we'll learn more about this side, as the season goes on and what they can produce. It'll obviously be a disappointing start to the season, and reality bites sometimes, and it bites hard. So they'll not be too far away from that 18th place kind of area, really. Well, I mean the relegation zone. I'm not confining them to 18th just yet, despite the fact that I predicted that's where they'll come. But yeah, a fine start for Stuttgart and plenty to work on for Furth.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be a little bit harsher on Furth, to be honest, Rory, than what you were there. I mean, just a quick look at the statistics, 17 shots on target for Stuttgart. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a football game where a team have had as many shots on target as 17. You know, I mean, the keepers had a good game despite conceding 5, you know, and that says a lot, let's be honest. I mean, this is a side that also went 5 at the back as well. They decided to go with the 3 central defenders and more defence-minded fullbacks as well, with Hugma, Bauer and Young as the kind of central halves. They're going to be having nightmares for weeks after that game, to be honest with you, because as you say, they couldn't mark corners, free kicks. It was just... Do you know what I mean? It was a true disaster for them, basically. And that was after a half-decent start as well. As you say, they tested the keeper very early on. They had a couple of decent shots over as well from Nielsen, the striker. I just thought it was... but after that, after the first goal, it really was a capitulation, to be honest with you, you know. And if they're going to compete at this level, they've got to really learn fast. And I mean, we talked a lot about Schalke being poor last year. They got hit for 8 in the first game against Bayern. But I mean, I don't remember them ever conceding 17 shots on target in a game of football the whole of last season. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. You know, if you can find a stat to prove that I'm wrong, but I mean that was a poor performance. It really was. But again, credit to Stuttgart. I mean, Sasha Kaladzic, obviously, he actually failed a COVID test before the game, so that was the reason why he was missing. Obviously, Gonzalez sold as well in the summer for 25 million euros. So yeah, it was kind of third choice striker really, Hamadi Al Gadoui as well. Correct me on the pronunciation there, but again, he had a good game. He got himself a goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Borna Souza is just a great midfielder, and one of the best set play takers in the Bundesliga. Generally, a great player. I thought Forster also had a good game. Wataru Endo was as good as he usually is. And as you say, Kempf, he can get goals in a game, but to get 2, it shouldn't be happening really. But yeah, it is what it is for Furth. They've got Bielefeld at home next week, and they've got to learn fast because that's a game they need to be ideally taking at least a point from, really, if they want to compete this season. So, yeah, sorry for fans if I've offended you there, but I mean, it wasn't a good performance, and I'm sure you guys are, fully aware of that. Yeah, coming from a Nuremberg fan as well. Yeah.
I'm sure once they're at home, they'll win.
Yeah. Okay, so over to the last game, which was another hammering, really, wasn't it? It was, but for Hoffenheim, who for large periods of last season underwhelmed, but there were signs that they were getting back to the best at the end of last season, and this was a really, really good away performance from Hoffenheim. I mean, to be honest, I thought the first half was very even, to be honest. And I mean, the first big chance actually fell to Augsburg with Vargas going through very well, but as he does sometimes, he kind of shot wide when it was probably should have been putting it on target, really. If that goes in, it's a different game for me, you know. Yep. And I mean, Augsburg they looked pretty decent in the first half an hour, but then just before the kind of 40-minute mark, obviously Larson it was a long cross, a deep cross, wasn't it? And he kind of like, I would say, bundled it home, really, in a way. But I mean, that was the start, really. And after that, I think Hoffenheim dominated, really, Rory.
They did, yeah. Perfectly summed up there. I think Vargas's chance early on was key for Augsburg, who were largely in the game, because obviously the second Hoffenheim goal didn't come until I think 79th minute. So obviously they scored their last 3 goals pretty quickly. So as much as it was a thrashing and as much as it was a good, comfortable win for Hoffenheim, Augsburg were, they were in it until late on. So they'll take that as something to take forward into the next game. They did obviously create a good few chances, more half chances for a little while after the kind of first spell of chances. Sebastian Rudy and Adamayan, I thought played quite well in between the lines of Augsburg and got their chances as a result. Rudy almost scored with a shot on the edge of the box when they created space for him that way. But probably the man of the match quite clearly was Kramaric for his 3 assists in the game. Obviously turned into a provider rather than the man scoring the goals in this game, actually. Some nice passes played in between the lines of the Augsburg defence, which they'll want to look at and tighten up for goals 2 and 3. And I thought I was quite impressed, actually, by the 19-year-old Jorginho Ruta. He did have a few kind of little breakout games towards the end of the season in which he started to look like a real player. And hopefully, if he gets lots of football this season, Hoffenheim could well be on to another talent there. Because obviously he got himself a goal, and I thought he did superbly well to lay it on a plate for the 4th goal right at the end for Rudy to then tap in to make it 4-0. But yeah, it was an open game, actually, because Augsburg were going for it, trying to get an equaliser for a while, and then it did create spaces for Hoffenheim to go into. So, obviously you're caught in between the idea of trying to get an equaliser, and then you're chasing goals when it's 2-0 and things can start to get a little bit more ugly. So, like we predicted so far, Mark, Augsburg and Furth are the teams in trouble. So far we can pat ourselves on the back, but there's a good 33 games left to go. So plenty of time for both Augsburg and Furth to climb back up the table. But they'll just want to tighten up a little bit. Hoffenheim look good going forward. Obviously, you got Kramaric. Ruta, ably supported by Baumgartner. I thought Anagram was a real player last season. He didn't get much chance because of injury, I think, a lot of the time. So I think they missed him last season. And you've got the likes of Babu as well, who can come off the bench. And if he becomes the player that he could do in terms of being a bit more clinical, then Hoffenheim will score goals, I'm sure. So perfect start for Hoffenheim for hopefully a more positive season to come.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot to be excited about for Hoffenheim this season in terms of watching them. I thought the goals that they scored, probably the 2nd, 3rd and 4th goals, they were what I would say very aesthetic goals, I mean, they were good team moves. They were well finished. And I totally agree with you, Rory, that I thought Jorginho Ruta was brilliant when he came on. He came on after 73 minutes when it was only 1-0. For obviously kind of what you would probably consider to be kind of one of Hoffenheim's star players, Baumgartner, who, he gets a goal and an assist. I thought he was brilliant. He runs at the defence. He played that brilliant ball across for Rudy to get the kind of took on the defender. To be honest, when I was watching him play, I kind of thought of a Babu, but with a better kind of, end product, basically. That's what I thought about, yeah. I mean, obviously, Babu, he's a player that kind of, he's a big threat, but he often flatters to deceive a lot, doesn't he? He misses a lot of easy chances. But I think Ruta is going to be one to watch this season. He was probably the kind of young player that really impressed me the most this season, this weekend, despite only playing the last 20 minutes of the game. I thought he was brilliant, and he's going to be one to watch for them. They've obviously got Grilic to come back in as well, who didn't play in this game. They've got Babu. There's a lot to be excited about for a side who kind of underperformed last season, really, didn't they? But I mean, Kramaric is always quality, isn't he? I mean, he's been quality for the last 3 or 4 seasons in the Bundesliga. Last year he got a hat-trick of goals on the opening day. This year he gets a hat-trick of assists. So nice. That's a nice stat for you, yeah. But what a performance from Hoffenheim. I don't think it was terribly bad from Augsburg, despite obviously we both tipped them to go down. But I mean, it kind of summed up the problems largely. I mean, they missed the big chance to go 1-0 ahead. They also sold Marco Richter to Hertha Berlin in midweek as well, which is very surprising for me because he was probably their most highly rated player with the highest market value. I mean, you're looking at Niederlechner probably doing a bit better than what he did last season and kind of rekindling his form from 2 years ago, when he got like 16, 17 goals. But I am very worried for Augsburg. Obviously, Dorsch came in. He had a half-decent game, especially in the first half. He looks to try and dictate play from the midfield, but he's got a massive job on his hands to turn this Augsburg into a competitive outfit, really, this season. I mean, obviously, Weinzel is quite highly rated as a manager as well in Augsburg. He's had a stint there before, but he's got a really big job on his hands this year. But I think for Augsburg, it's going to be a case of just trying to like pick up a few results on the way and hopefully just stay up. But I don't see them being like a great side this year, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I mean,
they are the kings of picking up points when they need to. We said that all last season, didn't we? But it's goals, isn't it? They're lacking goals. Niederlechner, certainly last year wasn't reliable. Vargas can have his moments, and they need support in themselves. Full stop. So that'll be the test.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we could see a couple of names come into. They could use the Richter money, but I don't know because obviously a lot of those kind of smaller teams are struggling at the moment due to COVID problems. Okay, so that's the end of our featured four for the week. So let's quickly sum up the other 5 games. So, I mean, obviously the main one there was Mainz 1, Leipzig 0. We've already got our first kind of major shot of the Bundesliga season. I mean, I thought Mainz were just not so much great in attacking form. I mean, the goal was just given to them by a howler from Mukiele. I mean, the corner, he's going to clear the corner and he kind of kicks it backwards. And then the impressive striker, Nia Keita, just kind of bundles it in, really. But he had a great game overall, Nia Keita. He leads the line really, really well for Mateta, who left about 6 months ago. But I just thought, I mean, some of the defending from Mainz. I remember that we spent the first 6 months of last season saying how poor they were defensively. But nowadays, they throw themselves in front of a bus, some of those defenders, to make sure the team don't concede a goal. It's fantastic to see how Bo Svensson's turned that team around. I mean, they're going to have a really good season for me. I thought they were great, Rory. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I thought, I mean, like the chances perhaps were, few and far between. They started very well with that headed chance for new signing Lee, who started as a centre forward, which I thought was quite strange because I thought he was operated more as a midfielder for Kiel last season. So obviously maybe they're addressing, the losing Quaison because he obviously his contract ended and they decided not to keep him, so they're using him as another option. So I thought that was an interesting way to play it with Nebel and Burkhardt either side of him. So quite an attacking formation and an exciting one as well. With of course the new signing Vidmer, I thought he slotted in quite well. Leandro Barreiro is always an exciting player going forward, and I think obviously they've still got players to come in, and they look like a danger, of course. But I think the most impressive part was how they stifled this RB Leipzig team that was spearheaded by new signing, of course, Andre Silva, who was the big money signing for Leipzig this summer, and you'd think that he'd be able to fill his boots, but didn't really have anything to go on all game long, I'd say. I think he had one opportunity, but it was already given as offside. So, fantastic performance from Mainz. They looked so impressive under the new manager. The second half of last season was incredible. So we'll have to see what they can do. Can they, can they sneak inside the top half of the table? Can they do more? Who knows? RB, plenty to work on for them. The young lad Simikan, who came in, had a couple of chances himself. I thought he did okay. Obviously, a bit of a stinker from Mukiele to give them the goal. Other than that, it wasn't disastrous, but it was quite uninspiring at times, I guess. So they'll be a bit worried, I guess. They've obviously lost ground on Dortmund, and the only kind of plus is the fact that Bayern only got a point. So they're not obviously so early on. You can never say anything really. But they want to get themselves back in the goals. They want to get Silva on the score sheet as early as they can in match week 2. So a few work-ons for sure. But I mean, who knows what will happen in the next few weeks? So we shall see.
And just a bit of credit as well. Put a bit of credit on the name of Niklas Tower as well. I mean, that block that he made in that second half was just unbelievable. You know, the young man, I think just 19 years old, fantastic performance from him. The likes of Hack and Bell were outstanding as well. No Jerry Saint-Just though today, but it's we'll have to see what happens there. He's highly expected to move away in the coming days, I guess. But I mean, obviously, I don't think they'll really miss him, judging on this performance, to be honest. That's for sure. Okay, so let's move on there to obviously Wolfsburg's 1-0 win over Bochum. I mean, this was probably a banker of the weekend, really, wasn't it? I think everyone would have had Wolfsburg with a clean sheet, really, and that's what they got. But maybe they'd have wanted a couple of extra goals, especially after Robert Tescher getting the red card for a handball on the line. Obviously, before that happened after 4 minutes, and before that, Baku had already smashed the bar as well when he should have scored. Weghorst missed a penalty. All this happened within the first 5 minutes, but it was still 0-0 incredibly at that point. But yeah, I mean, obviously they did eventually get the goal through Weghorst. But do you think Wolfsburg would have wanted a goal or two more from that one, Rory?
Well, yeah, of course they would. Like you said, that first 5 minutes was carnage. Baku missing from yards out to hit the bar. Then the corner that followed a few minutes later was flicked on, and then it looked like it's just like, it's hit the post play on, but obviously it turns out that the lad on the line, Tesh, has handballed it to then put it onto the post so it stays out. So VAR correctly, double checked it. It's a red card. It's horrible on the new season, newly promoted team. You just want to get off the mark and have a positive day, but letter of the law says that that should be a red card and he's off. Then obviously got away with it with a fine. Well, I say got away with it. It was obviously a brilliant save actually by the keeper, who had a really good game actually, I think. Let me just re-find his name because I thought he deserves a shout. Ryman, that's the one. So I thought he had a fine game in net. He kept Wolfsburg to one goal. So obviously on one side of it, Wolfsburg will know that they should have scored more goals than they could have. So that's good for them that they got the win, but they obviously know they can improve and score more goals. On the Bochum side of things, of course, put credit to them for going down a man after 5 minutes on your Bundesliga return. Obviously, if Weghorst had scored the penalty, it might have been another question. It might have been a lot more goals conceded. But the way I thought they, held up, stayed strong, defended well where they could, created the odd kind of shaky moment towards the end as well. Couple of long-range efforts, came close-ish and, gave the Wolfsburg fans a little bit to sweat on in case they maybe could have scratched a point away. And it's just so funny how much Bochum may well play this season, similarly to how Bielefeld played theirs last season. It's got similar shades already. It's exactly like we said in our preview, Bochum look like a side who are going to be a lot more defensively stout than Furth, but maybe will lack that goal-scoring presence. But we'll obviously have to see. Far from a disgrace losing 1-0 to Wolfsburg. So, plenty to work on for them, I'd say, and positive work on that is. So they'll go forward with a bit of confidence into the next game.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Bochum can hold their heads up high, to be honest, because especially after losing Robert Tescher, who's probably their key player as well, actually, ironically. I mean, losing him after 4 minutes and then only losing 1-0 to a side that were brilliant and got Champions League last year. I mean, they can take a lot of positives. And as you say, the keeper was outstanding. He made 9 saves in the game, including a penalty, which was great as well. Okay, so moving on to the late kickoff on Sunday, which was a win for FC Cologne over Hertha Berlin. I mean, obviously last season, this was two sides who just about stayed up with the skin of the teeth, really, didn't they? I mean, obviously, late, good bursts of form saved both of these sides. But, yeah, this was a much better game than what they would have served up last season anyway, that's for sure. I mean, it was an entertaining game, a lot of chances. The first 30 minutes belonged fully to Hertha Berlin. I mean, they took the lead after 6 minutes through Jovetic. I mean, it was obviously a signing that some would say, okay, he's well past it, but he's the kind of signing that could come good, and he could come very good. And the early signs were very positive, getting us Mateus Cunha getting the assist on that goal as well.
Yep.
But then you're just thinking, they missed a few chances. The keeper made a few saves, but then obviously Cologne, they also had a few chances early on as well, but not as good as some of the chances that Hertha created. But then obviously, Hertha, Cologne get themselves level through Anthony Modeste, actually, back in the amongst the goals. And then I think the second half was mostly Cologne, especially the early part, Rory.
It was, yeah, indeed. I thought they played their way into the game well after surviving that very intense first 30 minutes from Hertha. Like you said, the likes of Cunha, Jovetic, Mark Uth was even getting himself about. Serdar as well, the signing from Schalke, coming in off the wing. So they did well to get through that by not only conceding the one goal. And they worked their way into it. And then their better players or more forward players started to come to the fore for Cologne. Kynes, Tielemans were starting to look good. Shaqiri as well looked dangerous. And then obviously the goal came from Modeste, who's now come back to the club. Could be interesting to see how he gets on. So yeah, some really good performances in there. Kynes was particularly fantastic. Didn't really get much football last season and didn't do an awful lot either. So he started off the season looking very good. So that's obviously a brilliant positive for them. We always said last season, didn't we, that when Cologne were a bit more ambitious and a bit more attacking, that they went and got goals and they created dangerous opportunities and created problems for other teams. So I think that's the best way for them to approach the season. They've got some young players that hopefully will come good, and I think they're building towards what should be a safe season, I would say. Hertha, they've had some kind of stellar name signings in terms of names that are well known. Obviously, you add the name of obviously Kevin Prince Boateng onto that list of Jovetic. So it's a strong looking team on paper. There's just some of their risky signings come off, then they'll be mid-table and probably quite safe. If some of them go the opposite way and personalities clash and things like that, they could be in for a bit more trouble. So good start to the season for Cologne, a fantastic comeback.
Yeah, definitely. A lot more positives you can take to what they did at the start of last season. I think it took them 7 or 8 games to get the first win last season. So, yeah, I actually thought Hertha weren't bad either, really. It wasn't a very poor performance. I think there's reason to believe on the back of this game that both of these sides could have much better seasons this year, especially going forward. Both sides created a decent number of chances, and on another day they could have had more goals. But I think
and Hertha had a goal chalked off bar as well. So it could have been slightly closer.
Yeah, but obviously, if you look at Hertha's team, they need to be pushing towards that top half. If you look at some of the names in there, they've got obviously Mateus Cunha, who was massively rated at Leipzig a few years ago. Lucas Toussaint, who was actually part of the Brazil side, who won the Olympics as well. This is the caliber of player they've got. Jovetic was at City a few years ago. They do have a good team on paper, and it's just about getting that consistency and starting to get better game management at times as well. Okay, so let's just finish off with 2 draws. Union 1, Leverkusen 1. Both goals came very, very early in this game. Awani, the kind of big money sign, really. I think they paid about 6 million euros, which is massive money by Union standards. He hammered one home, didn't he, to show that he's worth the signing. I thought Union were the better side in this game, but Leverkusen is probably a decent point for them, really. I didn't think they were great. They lost, obviously, Leon Bailey, which is a blow, but Diaby was excellent again, as he usually is for them. They still have that lightning attack on the break. They scored a good equaliser, actually, but probably Union will feel they should have maybe been able to win this one, Rory.
Yeah, close game. Obviously, after 12 minutes, you're thinking this game could be one of those crazy ones, obviously, with it being 1-1 so early on. Great hit from Awani, as you said. And then, just kind of died down a little bit. There were more half chances rather than loads of big ones. I thought both Oztunali and Paulinho for both respective teams as subs came on and did well. They were positive for both sides. So, yeah, but I think both teams just take a point and move on and try and, get a bit more about how they're going to set up this season. But yeah, not a disastrous start for either side.
Yeah, I think it's a solid point for both. That one finishing on another draw. It was the only 0-0 draw of the weekend, but it wasn't a dire 0-0 by any means, was it? And I mean, I think yet again, I mean, Captain Fantastic Ortega again. I would say that probably the Freiburg keeper actually made even more saves than him, but I mean, he made some brilliant ones, especially the point blank range header, which looked like it was destined for the back of the net for Freiburg. But once again, that man Ortega, who, let's be honest, Bielefeld are really lucky to still have him at the club, to be honest, given his performances last year. I thought he was great again, Rory.
Yeah, I mean, as long as he is at the club, he will be the difference between Arminia getting a point here and there or getting the win 1-0 or whatever. He is an outstanding keeper. He really is. So started the season exactly as I expected. Superb in net. Yeah, made some brilliant saves. As did his opposite number, as you mentioned, Flecken in net. I thought made some really good saves from Okugawa. So as much as it was a 0-0 game, there were lots of big chances actually for both sides. But yeah, two keepers on fine fettle, which we love to see that. As much as it was 0-0, we had some terrible goalkeeping performances last season. So Ortega and Flecken are, trying to squash that straight away with a really good performance from both keepers in this game. So yeah, Bielefeld happier to take the point because obviously a Freiburg thing on the balance of it maybe just shaded it, but yeah, point apiece, good start to the season.
Yeah, and I think obviously Bielefeld made a really good signing during the week as well. They took Nuremberg's best player, Robin Hack, as well. He came off the bench after about 65 minutes. But I've seen him play in the flesh a few times, and he's a fantastic winger. So I guess they brought him in to kind of be the Ritsu Doan replacement. It's a similar kind of player to him, like a kind of like tricky, wide player who's very creative. So I think he could be a good sign. Also Kruger as well from Esgeburger Aue. They know how to make good signings, Bielefeld, and I think they've got enough reason in there to believe they can be a little bit better than what they were and start slowly creeping into becoming a stabilized Bundesliga side this year. Okay, so yeah, that pretty much concludes our analysis of the week. So just before we finish, let's go on to the hero and zero of the week. So Rory, do you want to introduce the hero?
I would love to, yeah. Plenty of good performances so far this week, but yeah, hard to ignore the man, the legend that is Erling Haaland, has put his team off to a fantastic start. 2 goals, 2 assists, physical, powerful, pacey. He's just an absolute machine. So yeah, fully deserved hero of the week. So yeah, Mark, do you want to do our zero?
Yeah, as for the zero, I guess there were probably 2 players that we thought. We also thought about Mukiele from Leipzig, who did a real howler. Potentially Paslak as well, obviously getting an own goal, but it probably wasn't bad enough to warrant zero of the week. But zero of the week, we're going for the Bochum midfielder, Robert Tescher, who obviously... I mean, some would say, yeah, he should just have let it go in and then they'd have played the rest of the game with 11 men. But I mean, obviously they only lost 1-0, so I guess it was damage limitation in the end. But yeah, I mean, he's a key player for Bochum. He was one of the best players in this Fighter Bundesliga last year, so they're going to miss him for his suspension. But yeah, he's got to get zero of the week, considering that it was after only 4 minutes of play as well. So he left his team with a big task ahead.
Absolutely.
Okay. So yeah,
that obviously brings a close to our first show proper of the season. We very much enjoyed the weekend's worth of football. As we always say, goals galore. Plenty of things going on in the Bundesliga. So what's not to like? Obviously, if you're new to the channel and you've liked what you saw, please do hit that subscribe button. We're starting to get a bit more of an influx at the moment, which is fantastic. So if you're new to the channel and you're enjoying what you're seeing from us or the Bundesliga, do get involved with it. We're doing a lot more this season. We're being a lot more interactive. We've got a brilliant new kind of showcase Thursday show with Bully News. So we're doing the fantasy football in there every Thursday. So Rune will be back hopefully on Thursday to do some week 1 review and tell you who to pick in your team for week 2. And me and Mark will also review how we've got on after week one. I think we're both about halfway, but we'll reveal more obviously in Thursday's live show. So obviously keep your eyes peeled out for that. But yeah, over to you, Mark, to close up the first show of the season.
Absolutely, yeah. So obviously, if you enjoy what you saw today and you're interested in more OTB over the bar content, then remember to check out our Twitter feed, which is at Over the Bar FB. We've got everything related to what we produce at the site on that link. Obviously, League One and League Two show as well. We also have a League Two show for you lower league junkies out there as well. Yeah, and we also have obviously our main site, which is otbfootball.net, which is like the centerpiece of all of our stuff. Go and check that out as well, because we have some people that work pretty hard on that behind the scenes. So yeah, it's been a great first weekend of football. Yeah, and we hope to see you again on Thursday with our live show.
Till next time.